Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 24th of March, comes to you from London. Well, what a day yesterday. We saw that news from Trump announcing effectively a ceasefire, and that just the price of oil just fell like $15, $20 just straight away, and projected some new downside targets. The short-term chart has turned bearish with those downside targets, but we are still holding above the $100 level, and a lot of our users are trading oil or energy will be looking at these 1 minute targets, especially on gas and power markets. But the interesting thing is that the longer term picture, that's where we're going to see this $100 mark on crude oil is now really the level to watch. So it'll be interesting to see if we go lower than the low set yesterday. That would be bearish, or if we recover and then of course go higher. But we now have this trading range of around 100, 120, which was roughly where we were before. So the key thing is markets reacted very positively to that. We saw things like gold were down. Gold was down several percent at one point yesterday, really spiking lower, and then we saw that just a whole series of things recover. So looking at the gold price first of all, we do have an unactivated upside target there, so that's going to be key to watch. But the thing is, there's so many targets to watch at the moment. This chart is crude oil is having a really big impact on markets. And of course, you can watch it on your TradingView as well. You can get the targets on TradingView. If you just go to the updated website, you can get them there. So really, more and more people are using the targets to understand how these price moves actually project the next move. So looking at the reaction in markets, well, the dollar continues to be relatively strong short term, but we are in a trading range this last week, having had recovered. This is the short term chart, the 60-minute chart. We look at the daily chart, and we can see that really we had this move sideways, dollar strength hitting 100 on the dollar index is really sort of the limit. Bitcoin, that's been an interesting one. We sort of saw this bottom out, slight recovery. Again, you can do these targets on TradingView, no problem. But we are seeing stocks just giving up a bit of ground. Yesterday, we saw a sharp recovery in the stocks, but already that in the futures, we're just seeing that's flatter. And it doesn't change the fact that we are below the cloud. We talked about the futures. And if we look at the NASDAQ, the fact remains we activated this downside target. That cannot be removed until we make a new high on the NASDAQ. And the last time we saw a high was October. So, we're 6 months in and really rolling over. So the reality is watch for new lows there. That's going to be really critical. But we saw yesterday quite a big bounce in markets. But on the whole, the trends, if we look at them, on the whole, the trends are still through the 200-day moving average below the cloud. FTSE, this is the future, below the cloud on the price, not on the lagging line. That's looking a little bit better. The DAX in Germany, that has broken a pretty critical level, making now heading into 12-month lows. So that is not good news. And if we look at Asian markets, they recovered sharply, having closed much lower yesterday without that new news coming in. So they'd already closed much lower. The Aussie market is just sitting on that support level. Announcement of an EU trade deal yesterday, probably supporting things a little bit, but interestingly, we're seeing that that level. We are below the cloud, so Asian markets do look quite vulnerable, and of course they are very susceptible to LNG prices. And if we look at the LNG price, that is really quite significantly, that has more than doubled in Europe. And so if we look at this is what we call a benchmark marker that has just rocketed. That has that's Asian gas basically, and that has really big implications for Asian economies. Looking at bond markets, that's where we're most concerned, of course. That's really the bigger thing. The oil price will move up and down, but it's this inflationary moves in bond yields that's really significant. And the long-term picture for bonds is that they're falling, yields are rising. We're seeing UK borrowing costs now at 15-year highs. That is really going to cause issues for governments globally, and we're seeing that affect across the board. That's Germany, 4 upside targets. Australia, that's already run. And we're seeing economies like India, where they have got massive inflation. Really, already we've got bond yields just nudging new highs, but going to 7.5%. Looking at stocks, the Dow obviously recovered quite quickly. The key thing for me to look at on the Dow is what are the trends doing, and so I like this. Like this measure, I've just been able to measure which stocks are the strongest. So Chevron, bullish, bullish, bullish on all 3 time frames. That's what I want to see. And then Verizon, again, this is where we're above the cloud. We're just neutral, so that has a score of 5 on the short term, but that upside target really significant. And then on the downside, Microsoft bearish on all time frames. So that's just where you want to be aware of the trend state. The trend is more important than what's happening on your screen every day and how those trends are changing. So that's really significant thing to watch. And doing it for the UK market, I was doing it this morning. So this is my weekly, my daily, my 60-minute, and the targets. We've got 2 stocks that are above the cloud on all 3 time frames. Upside target there on Phoenix, so that's really quite interesting. Shell and BP at 5, they've gone neutral on the medium term targets, so you can just see the lagging line on the prices in the cloud. So, but still 5 is a high score, and this is really what you want to be seeking out on your list of stocks. Which stocks are in strong multiple uptrends, and which stocks are at the other end of the scale. And really, once you get to here, you've got a very mixed picture. If we look at something like Standard Chartered, bullish long term, medium term bearish, short term neutral, or short term bearish. So we get 3 points for the weekly, 2 for the daily. We assign more points to the longer term trend. So you can see that's just a very much more neutral picture. And then you can go right to the other end of the scale, where is the most bearishness. So bearish, bearish, bearish is a score of -6, below the cloud on the weekly, below the cloud on the daily, below the cloud on the 60-minute, and a downside price target. Really, this is what you want to do. So you want to ask yourself the question, am I in stocks that are in downtrends, or am I in stocks that are in uptrends? And you can see, even though we might be up on the day, so 3i Group is up on the day, it is still in downtrends with downside targets. So that's the key thing, is the trend is the thing to watch. And there are a lot more stocks at -6 than there are at +6. And so, we accept that not everything's at +6, but it's these stocks that are in the 5s, and we can just literally go through and see the 5 means that the short-term trend is neutral, basically. So bullish, bullish, neutral. And even if you look at stocks where the short-term trend is bearish, the key thing is you're still bullish on the longer-term trend. So that big fall there might start to be the beginning of a trend change, and that's what you've got to be watching for. Stocks that are moving from bullish to neutral to bearish on the shorter term trends, and then moving, so here we look at Vodafone, bullish, neutral, neutral. So bullish above the cloud, and this is a new feature, an updater in the product. We're doing a special offer this month on this feature and the training, and really this is what you want to be doing to make sure that you're in stocks that are trending up. So do watch the clouds, the trends, and of course the price targets. You can draw the price targets on any chart you like. Just simply hit the T key and it will draw the targets. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Watch those price targets and watch them on crude oil. Bye for now.